The NFL devours most head coaches, a league where security is hard to find, harder to hold, and where the stress is often unbearable, and it's certainly swirling all around Jonathan Gannon. There is the pressure of expectations, a 4-game losing streak that has landed the Cardinals in last place, a $100,000 fine for losing his cool on the sideline and getting physical with one of his players, and then there was yesterday's deadpan response about when he learned how to handle adversity in the coaching business. Quote, 2007 when our quarterback went to jail. The moment immediately went viral, and some took offense to the Michael Vick incident and how Vick caught a stray from the Cardinals head coach. I thought the answer was quick-witted and superb, but after all of that, nothing threatens Gannon's status in the locker room more than how he's handling his current quarterback dilemma, because he has declared Kyler Murray his starting quarterback at a time when the players in that locker room might feel differently, because Jacoby Brissett elevated the offense in Indianapolis in ways that Murray cannot, because we saw the marked difference of a quarterback who stands tall and firm in the pocket, a quarterback who can actually see the entire field. And if Brissett plays on Sunday and somehow beats the Packers, what then? How do you walk back that commitment to Murray? And as any rancher will tell you, you can't change horses in the middle of a stream. All right, today's Bickley Blast brought to you by my great friends at Chapman BMW, who make luxury attainable. Find them online at chapmanbmw.com.
No, I think guys are excited. It doesn't feel like we lost 4 straight. They've all been really close games. I think guys are encouraged by that. But no, I think the vibe's high. I think guys are excited to be here at work and excited to play a very good Packers team this week.
All right, that's the voice of Trey McBride talking about the current vibes on the team, that it's not as bad as the record might suggest. Question is, are the Cardinals as bad as the record might suggest, and how do they beat the Packers on Sunday, regardless of who's playing quarterback?
Yeah, they are that bad, Dan, because they do not execute. And it has been incredibly frustrating to watch this season after following it all offseason and following the rise of this program, if you want to call it that, for the last 2 years, because there was a lot of belief and trust that we provided. Like I say, we here as a fan of the team, that was given to Jonathan Gannon, that was given to Monty Austin-Ford after that first year because of the things that were being said, because of the way that they would play. But all they have done this year is just show that they are unorganized. And that, to me, is, again, all of this year was supposed to be like the year of Kyler, like a current figure. The year of Kyler part 6, by the way, but like the year of Kyler and figuring out what you're going to do with him. But also like, okay, this program that Jonathan Gannon and Monty Austin-Ford have built up, does it get you to the playoffs? Where are you at? What is the next step forward? Instead, they're taking a dramatic 2 steps back right now, because if you look at their entire schedule and the games that they have played so far this year against New Orleans, they allowed Spencer Rattler to nearly steal that game at the end. Carolina executes an onside kick to nearly steal that game. The San Francisco game was a narrow loss. Seattle, the reason they lose that game is because of poor execution on special teams. Tennessee, there's 6 different moments that I could point at. Everyone already remembers that pretty well.
That was peak absurdity.
And against Indianapolis, they just needed 1 stop in the 4th quarter. That was it. So again, it just keeps resembling the look of a bad football team, and just not a bad football team in terms of talent, but in terms of execution. You know what's crazy is you look at this 2-4 start, and I think they're a bad football team. Don't get me wrong. They could be 6-0. They legitimately could, and people say that all the time. It's like, no, if they just took care of business in the 4th quarter against San Francisco, against Indianapolis, just got stops, and then didn't shoot themselves in the foot against Seattle and Tennessee, they would be 6-0 right now. And they would be 6-0 right now if everything that we were told and everything that we believed about this regime was actually being instilled to its players, and that execution and culture was carrying over. It's clearly not carrying over right now, which is where the bigger questions will start if they continue to look this poor.
That's a very good point. All right, so you're dealing with a Packers team that you don't know what you're going to get from. I don't know whether this Packers team is due for a really good game. They opened the season with very loud wins against the Lions and the Commanders. Then they went to Cleveland in a game where their offense stunk. Then they tied a game against the Cowboys where their defense stunk and allowed 40 points. And last week they, as the new saying goes, they were playing with their food against the Bengals, where their offense was bad for one half and their defense was bad for a half. I don't know exactly what you're going to get from this Green Bay team, other than, as you pointed out earlier, you can kind of count, if you put pressure on the Packers, Jordan Love making a key mistake. That seems to be a hallmark of what you get with Jordan Love.
You do. You get some, I think when Cardinals fans watch Jordan Love, they wish that this guy was their quarterback. And what I mean by that is he will take any shot down the field. He doesn't care. If he thinks Romeo Doubs can catch that in double coverage 45 yards down the field, he's going to chuck it down there. Now, is it the proper decision sometimes? No, it is not at all. And I think the main thing for them on Sunday is, again, he is going to make a questionable decision and the ball is going to be present for someone to grab. They better catch that ball, because you'll remember that Lions game, they completely walked over the Lions. They were the talk of the NFL after week 1. What people forget is the dropped pick, and then a play later, Brian Branch picked the ball off, ran it into the end zone, and then it was called back for some penalty that was completely irrelevant to the actual play that happened in Love throwing. He basically threw 2 picks in a row. Both of them got taken off. They went on to dominate that game. I'm sure you guys have talked about it earlier in the week already, Dan, but this is sort of like, we're a week or two away from everyone really starting to build up the, not Jerry Jones is right conversation, don't get me wrong, but the, okay, where is like the defensive player of the year candidate that Micah Parsons is supposed to be? Because he's got 2.5 sacks right now. His pressure numbers against the Bengals, he only had 4. He had 7 pressures against the Cowboys and a sack, 8 pressures against the Browns. So he is certainly getting to the quarterback. But in terms of it affecting the game in the ways that we expected and saw in that Detroit game where he was barely on the field and it just felt like he was out there for every snap still, we're not quite there yet. This feels like the perfect opportunity for him to get going.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So for those who are just tuning in, Kyler Murray was listed as limited on the injury report yesterday. That is not a surprise. They did not practice. They had a walkthrough instead. Kyler Murray did not have his normal Wednesday press conference. That was the same thing with the week before, and that's perfectly acceptable. If you don't know who's starting, then there's no obligation for any individual to meet the media. But you can tell this issue is very buttoned up with the football team, because it's a real heavy issue as to what they're going to do and how this team is going to look, and the importance of not coming out of the bye week at 2-5, especially when, as you pointed out, you can make this argument that things could be so much better for us. So to me, I think this is going to have to be a game when the defense shines, and I don't know how this happens, but I think making sure you capitalize on all turnover possibilities that come your way. We know that Budda Baker dropped a would-be interception last week. And outside of Calais Campbell, their defensive tackles have generated very little pressure. Calais Campbell has 3 sacks, 16 pressures, and 141 pass rush snaps. The rest of that group, 1 sack and 15 pressures on 488 pass rush snaps. That's a 3.1% pressure rate. That's not going to get it done in the NFL.
This is going to be a game in the trenches as well, because it's been a tale of 2 running games for the Packers as well right now in this current situation, because in their last 2 games, they've got 164 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. They were averaging nearly 5 yards a carry against Dallas, and then against Cincinnati, 153 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, 4.5 yards per carry. The ground game really struggled against Cleveland, really struggled against Detroit, was pretty solid against the Commanders. Like Josh Jacobs, of course, one of the better running backs in the NFL. So when Jordan Love is having one of those Jordan Love-esque games, they can just turn to that ground game that has been reliable for them at times. It has also gotten them stonewalled at times, and that's the reason why they lost against the Browns. Like, Jordan Love was trash, don't get me wrong, but if they would have been able to run the ball, they would have been just fine, but they weren't able to, and we know the problems the Cardinals have had in the trenches specifically, but the best part of their defense so far this year has been stopping the run. We'll see if they can get back to that after Jonathan Taylor did what he did last week.
Thanks for watching Bickley and Marotta. Click to see the latest Bickley Blast and hit the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.